Well, hello everyone. This is Raquel, and I want to welcome you from wherever you are on the planet as we gather together today. It is the 5th of September, and in the US, it is a holiday weekend, and there is still the energy of the new moon or the full moon that we are physically in. And so as we sit in this beautiful energy, it's so important to really think about what we're being called to do. It's an interesting time for all of us being human on this planet right now, because we are truly on the cutting edge of stepping into a new reality, a new way of being. And yet, as we continue to see the outer reality around us crumbling, in disarray, in chaos, in many, many parts of the world, there's this deep internal knowing that we are all operating from, or that we are trying to operate from. And it is an interesting dichotomy. It's an interesting balancing act that we are all pursuing at this particular time in our lives. We continue to push the boundaries of what we think we're capable of. We continue to question the outer reality and move into a much more harmonic life with the true nature of our soul. And we know that the soul communicates directly through the heart. This is where our truth of our knowing, the truth of our soul, our higher self, really communicates through. And as we sit in this time and space, more and more of us are coming into a deeper state of resonance and balance with our heart and our soul, regardless of what is happening in the outer reality. And that yearning, that calling, that undeniable communication that is coming in through our heart is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And as we sit here looking at the outer world and what's going on, it takes a lot of courage to move into what we call alignment with our soul. It takes a lot to have the courage to step on to new pathways when the world around us is so uncertain. It takes a lot of courage to take the first steps in changing your personal life with so much uncertainty in the future, yet the soul is driving us. Our higher self is, for many, becoming relentless, if it hasn't been for quite some time. Because we're being asked to pivot. We're being asked to reposition. We're being asked to step into new platforms, if you will. And for some, that may be a very small change. For others, it's kind of big. And so we're being really pushed to trust and trust our inner knowing, our true essence that is coming through our intuition, our deep gut intuition that we all have. Yet the ego and the mind, and usually everyone around us, likes to damper that enthusiasm for the shifts and the changes that your soul is desiring to make. And so often we know the truth of what our soul is asking, and we come up against a lot of resistance. And that resistance is from the outside world. That resistance is from partners, family, friends, even friends who have our back, who want to support us in these changes, there's still, pardon me, there's still a lot of, how do I say this? There's still a lot of fear that is running the show. And being able to navigate that world and that experience of the fear, the experience of the unknown, and still step forward to the true trajectory of your higher self and your soul wisdom can often lead to a lot of unraveling of past events, unraveling a lot of personal emotion. And so we're being asked to do this, and we're being asked to do this relatively fast because we're being repositioned. Many, many people are being repositioned as they follow their heart. And so how do you follow your heart and still maintain some sense of security in this reality? Because quite often we all know that our higher self and our soul calling isn't thinking about how do we pay the bills or where do we live, right? Or how can we navigate this and still live within this 3D reality? And yet, when you're truly aligned with your soul and your higher self's calling, the trick, the way in which we truly align is to get out of our own way and open up to all possibilities and all potentialities. One of the things that we are really famous for, being human and having an ego, is that we like to control and think we can think about all of the possibilities, right? We want to control the outcome. We think we see all potentialities because it could work out this way or it could work out that way, or this has to happen to make me do this or make me feel comfortable to do this. And yet when we work in a way that's truly aligned with Source, there is a letting go of that ego, that need to control, that systematic way in which we try to plot our reality. And it's an interesting and very frustrating at times balance that we need to operate from. But the next step of what really is needed for so many is to understand and really allow the ego to get out of the way, to step into that unknown when you truly are aligned, not just from an ego or from a personality, but your soul is truly driving you to make change, to open up the field for potentials to show up that you could never even imagine. Because when we think about our higher self orchestrating from a much higher perspective, when we allow the magic, and magic has a interesting vibration to it. It has an interesting connotation to it. And many have a negative response to that word. But the release of expectation and the trust of the unlimited potential that can be orchestrated from the higher realms, from the quantum realms, to produce an outcome or a series of outcomes is truly what magic is when you start looking at it from that perspective. There are infinite ways that your higher self can orchestrate support in this reality. And yet your personality or ego probably can only see about 2% of those outcomes or potentialities because we have past experiences. We've watched other people and we think there's a finite way in which support can be given. But at this time and at this juncture in our lives and in the unraveling of what is happening in the world, our higher selves are wanting us to align at a level to suspend our judgment, to suspend our ego control mechanisms, and truly step into the unknown with the lack of expectation of how the support is going to show up. And so many of you may be sitting at a juncture right now in your reality, in your life, where your soul is wanting you to take a step in a certain direction. And it is up to working through the ego, working through the mind structures, working through the personality to suspend all of that and step into that unknown with complete understanding, complete surrender, if you will, to allow the universe to support you and have the circumstances and the sequencing and the serendipity of life become magical for you. And many can sit in a space and talk themselves out of following their true soul's direction. And yet we're being asked to have the courage to take that leap of faith when our true higher self, not our ego, not our personality, but when our true higher self is driving the shift. It's up to us to have the courage to trust in our higher self and the universe and take that leap of faith. It's interesting. I'm not sure who out there in this particular conversation is at that pinnacle point, but apparently there's a few of you because this is unexpected in the conversation this morning or this afternoon or this evening, wherever you are and whatever now moment you're listening to. But I hope you feel the truth behind these words and letting go of the expectation of how it will show up, because I can say with personal experience, it never, ever looks like what you try to imagine or control. And in my humble experience in my lifetime, it is so much more than I've ever anticipated or dreamt in my particular experiences when I take those leaps of faith following my soul. So take a nice deep breath and breathe that in. Let that settle in. And there is an art to knowing whether it's your ego that's driving you or whether it's truly your soul. And that's when operating from your heart space is critical to knowing the difference. Is it truly your soul that is driving the change and the shift? And when you can truly tap into that and know, that's the time you can let the ego control release and have the courage and the wisdom to step boldly in the new direction that your soul is prompting you to.